everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Katarina. Today's video is going to be an update to my Palette of the Month series. This series is inspired by the 1 month 1 palette challenge that Kat from Kitsnitch started a couple of years ago, and each month I will pick one eyeshadow palette from my collection that I will create looks with, and my official goal with the palette is to use each shade at least once. I am someone who absolutely loves panning eyeshadows, but sometimes when I'm so focused on panning I can neglect the rest of my collection, so this is a way for me to rotate through my collection while I am still panning. So the palette that I had picked for the month of December is the Give Me Glow Cosmetics Christmas Morning eyeshadow palette, and I actually filmed my update video where I updated you about the November's palette and introduced this to you just a couple of weeks ago, because I got this palette quite late. I ordered it in the beginning of November, but the international shipping can take quite a while sometimes, so once I got the palette I filmed the video right away. I haven't had too much time to play with this palette, but Christmas went already. I have used all of the shades at least once and I did create several looks with this palette, so I'm kinda like ready to move on already from this palette. Today I will be giving you my overall review and opinion of this palette and the formula and the color story. I will also tell you how many times I used each shade, and I will show you some pictures of looks. So first, before saying anything else about the formula, this is a Christmas theme palette as the name suggests. And I feel because it is Christmas themed, it is like a special occasion palette to me. To be completely honest, I don't see myself using this palette really other than during holiday season, and I try to avoid purchasing makeup that I really don't wear. However, I do allow some exceptions to myself when it comes to eyeshadows, because those things don't expire that quickly, so it is a palette I don't see myself using throughout the entire year, but for multiple years to come I can see myself using this around Christmas time. And I got to say that this formula, I don't say it's bad by any means, I do think it's quite nice formula, but if it was an everyday palette with a really neutral color story, I maybe wouldn't like it that much, because I don't think it's necessarily the most user-friendly formula. So I do forgive the little bit more tricky formula to this, because it is a special occasion palette. I mean, it's not an everyday palette. I wouldn't create a look to work from this palette, for example, but for a special occasion palette I don't mind the formula that much, if it makes sense. That being said, I don't know if I would buy more eyeshadows from Give Me Glow. To be completely honest, none of their other palettes speak to me that much, but I might purchase some singles from them. But let's talk about the formula. So let's start with the mattes. I do think these are nice mattes, but not my favorite formula. These are really hardly pressed, and I do think they can be a little bit more effort to blend them out. With these mattes I do prefer to set my eyeshadow primer, because I feel, especially with the colorful mattes, that if I don't set my eyeshadow primer it's going to be too much pigment too quickly, and then I end up having like bright eyeshadow like up to my brows. So that's why I do prefer to set my eyeshadow primer. That means I need to build the color maybe just a little bit more, but it is a pigmented formula that builds up well, but it may take just a little bit more effort to blend this formula out. But then let's talk about the shimmers. These shimmers are nothing like I have ever seen before. They are so soft and so wet, they look really metallic, and I will show you when I swatch this. So I will just slightly swirl my finger there and then I will show you a swatch. So here goes. This is just like a really light swirl on the pan, and this is how intense it is. And that's what it looks like when I try to blend it out a little bit, so still really intense and metallic. So these shimmers are like out of this world. I have never seen metallic eyeshadows this metallic. That being said, I don't think they are necessarily the easiest to apply. I personally do prefer to wear a glitter primer under them because otherwise there will be glitter fallout. And also, if I'm being completely honest, to me personally this is almost like a little bit too much. I don't mind the insanely metallic formula because this is a Christmas themed palette. But if it wasn't, if it was like a neutral everyday palette, I don't know if I would want metallics that intense. And I am someone who likes shimmery eyeshadow, but I probably would just prefer just a little bit kind of like easier application and a little bit more subtle metallic. But yeah, they are beautiful. That being said, considering that the mattes are a little bit more tricky to blend out, and with the metallics I feel the glitter primer is necessary under it, I don't know if it is the most user friendly. Then let's go through the shades, so I will tell you what I think about the shades and also how many times I used them. So let's start with the greens. So the first shade is called Gifts Color, and this one is a little bit deeper metallic green that actually is a duochrome shade. So this one has like a reddish brown shift to it. To be completely honest, I maybe would like it just a little bit more if the duochrome effect wasn't there, because I'm not typically the biggest fan of duochrome shades in general. But this is a beautiful shade and I used it twice. And then there is the shade Under the Tree, and this one is a green matte. This one I only used once. If I have to say, this is probably my least favorite shade from the palette, just because it is a matte green. I usually don't like to wear matte bright colors that much. I feel they are quite tricky to get to work, especially on everyday wear, so they are not my favorite, but it is a good green for what I can tell you. Then there is the shade Milk and Cookies, so this one is a lighter warm brown, and I used this one total 3 times. Then there is the shade Pajamas, and this one I did use 3 times also. This is probably my favorite shade, this one and the silver. I just absolutely do love neutral metallic shades. Gold is one of my favorite eyeshadow colors ever, and I do like this tone of gold. It is like, I'm trying to look at the swatch. It is a beautiful gold. It is warm, but it's not too yellow, so really do love it. Then there is the shade Stocking Stuffers. This one I unfortunately only used once, but it is a beautiful, beautiful shade. I would say this is probably my favorite shade after the neutrals. This is a beautiful metallic red. And then there is the matte red that is called Cozy Fire. I also used this one only once. To be completely honest, red eyeshadow is a little bit tricky to me. I feel it's something that swatches so beautifully, but when I apply it to my eyes, it can make me look sick so easily. But yeah, it is a nice matte red. I just don't typically wear matte reds. Then there is the shade Chimney. This one I used 5 times, so I actually used this one every single time that I created a look with this palette. Not necessarily on my eyes, but every single time that I used this palette, I used this one on my brows. And by the way, I think I forgot to mention that I created a look from this palette for 5 times. Sometimes I also used some other shades, but you know, the base of the look came here. And then last but not least is the shade Santa's Sleigh. So this one is a beautiful icy metallic silver. Absolutely do love silvers like this. They are so beautiful. I do really love this shade. However, I only wore it once. Then let's talk about some looks that I created. As I said, I created 5 looks from this palette. I was supposed to film a Get Ready With Me using this palette on Christmas Eve. However, I was way too tired to do this. The 3 mornings before Christmas, I had to wake at 3 AM because my work started 5 AM and I still wasn't able to go to bed super early, so I was really lacking sleep on Christmas Eve. So my head was so empty, I hadn't prepared for the Get Ready With Me, so I decided to not to film it. I would have loved to do it, but I was just way too tired and it wouldn't have been a good video at all. That being said, you probably know what kind of look I created for Christmas. if you have been watching my channel, you know what kind of looks I always create when it is a special occasion. So it was a neutral eyeshadow look. I did have the neutral mattes in my crease and then the shade pajamas on my lid, so the gold one, and then I wore a red lip with the look. So a really basic look from me that you have seen me doing a lot of the times. For example, on our wedding anniversary I wore a really similar look, and I actually did film a Get Ready With Me 10. But yeah, I didn't film the Get Ready With Me, and I also forgot to take a picture of my look, so sorry about that. I do have pictures of all the other looks. So the first look that I created with the palette was a warmer red gold look. So I wanted to use as many shades as possible from the palette when I created this look. So in this look I do have the milk and chocolate shade, so the lighter warm brown as transition shade. I do have Cozy Fire in my crease and Chimney on the outer corner. Then on my lid I'm having Pajamas in the inner half and Stocking Stuffers in the outer half of my lid. So a really Christmassy look, and I really did enjoy this look, but I will say I probably wiped my makeup off for a couple of times before I was happy. I always create my eyes first, so you know, I didn't have to take everything off. But the eyeshadow that I had created, because it took quite a while for me to figure out the formula. Like, I feel I just didn't get it to work first, and then I tried with setting my lid, then I tried without setting my lid, and then the look was just way too intense, so I took it off and then I set my lid and went with this look. I think the look is pretty, but you know, it was harder for me to create than I thought. And the first look I did wear in my beauty budget finale video. The second look was a green look, and this one I did wear in my Project Police intro video. So here I also did have a couple of other eyeshadows from my collection, but from this palette I wore the Under the Tree shade in my crease, and then on the outer half of my lid the Gifts Galore shade. But I also am wearing in this look the deep matte green eyeshadow Wise from the e.l.f. Opposites Attract palette, and also the mint green in the inner half of my lid, or inner third, is the, what's the shade even called? Is it Macarons from the Juvia's Place Douche palette. And I got to say, I really did enjoy this look, but all green looks like this I don't create too often. But I wanted to try how the greens work, so they worked fine. Then the next look I created with this palette was the one I wore in my low buy intro video. So this was like a silvery neutral look, so I do have brown crease going on. I am wearing a single eyeshadow in my crease there, so not the milk and chocolate shade, even though it looks quite the same, but the shade that I wore in my crease is actually a little bit more neutral, not so warm. Then I do have here the shade Chimney in the outer part of my lid, and then I do have the Santa Sleigh shade all over my lid, and it is such a beautiful, really foiled shade. It looks amazing. It actually looks like foil. Then next time I wore this palette was on Christmas Eve, and as I told you already, I don't have a picture of that, but then today is the last time I'm wearing a look from the palette, so I am wearing today again the shades Milk and Cookies, Chimney, Pajamas and Gifts Galore. So I really do like this look. It's like a neutral look with a little pop of color there. But yeah, that's really everything I have to say about the Give Me Glow Cosmetics Christmas Morning palette. I do quite enjoy it, but it is a really special occasion palette to me, and you know, based on my experience with this formula, I wouldn't necessarily buy more eyeshadows from them, except maybe a couple of singles if I place an order to their website later, but we'll see. Then let's move on to the palette that I will be using in January. I am so excited about this palette. I'm sorry this is super dirty. This packaging is one of those that gets full of fingerprints. However, this palette is the BH Cosmetics Glam Reflection Smoke eyeshadow palette. I'm trying not to blind you. This is a really reflective packaging that gets dirty, as I said. But this palette is new to my collection. I bought 3 eyeshadow palettes from BH Cosmetics in August. This is not one of them. This one was actually a gift with purchase, so I didn't buy it with my own money. And first I thought that I would just give this palette to someone else. But when I got this palette and I looked at the colors, I thought that I needed to give it a chance because I do really like the colors in this palette. Consider that they call this a smoky palette. I wouldn't say this is too cool toned. I would say it's kind of like neutral with some cool tones but with some warm tones. But I do think this is a fun take on a smoky palette because, you know, we all have seen those really grey silvery smoky palettes like the Urban Decay Naked Smoky or the Colourpop Smoke Show or whatever it is called nowadays. And I do have the Urban Decay Naked Smoky and I don't want another smoky palette like that, but I feel this one has something else to offer too. I mean, look at it. It does have mainly cool tones, but there are some pops of warmth, like a copper there and a warmer brown. And I do think there are so many interesting combinations I could do with this palette. So yeah, I do want to give a chance to this palette, and I believe the formula is great. I have no doubts about it. It looks amazing, swatches amazingly, and I do enjoy BH Cosmetics formula. We'll see what kind of looks I create, but yeah, this is the palette I will be using in January. My goal is to use each of these shades at least once, and then I will update you on this palette in about a month and share with you my review and opinion. Most likely I am going to keep this palette in my collection because it seems there are so beautiful shades, like the silver looks amazing, there's a beautiful rose gold, there is some beautiful satin shades that I feel are quite rare to find nowadays, and I actually do like satin eyeshadow, especially on everyday wear. But that is everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. See you on my next one. Bye bye.